Welcome back. We just covered definition of money and how fiat money was actually created. Now I'll go to debasement and the impact of fiat currencies. Debasement, inflation, and the impact of fiat money is very important to understand. In the early 70s, uh, the total global debt of sovereigns was about $1 trillion. Today, it's 111 trillion. That's a significant amount of money. What's happening is that once gold was delinked, or the currencies were delinked from the gold, it became completely out of control. So most of the governments now are printing as much money as they can, and it's gone out of control completely because there's nothing backing it except the broken promises of corrupt politicians. What the governments are doing is they're inflating away the debt. They're printing so much debt that every day the value of your money is going down. And so is the debt going down as well. So, in effect, what they're doing is the politicians, they're going into your pocket and taking a portion of the money out of your pocket without you even knowing it because your money inflates away every day. Um, and that's happening because the governments are out of control in their printing of money. Um, However, there is a limit to which they can go because every debt comes with an interest cost. Somebody owns it and they need to pay interest on it. So what happens is that as interest rate rise, they get to a limit where the cost of paying interest becomes so high that they need to do a few things. So, what can they do? The governments have only a few things to wriggle out of that situation. They can come in and say, okay, we tried capitalism, it's not working, let's go to socialism. Or they'll say, oh, we tried socialism, it's not working, let's go to something else. They could also do a financial default saying, okay, your currency is worth 50% now across the board. They could come out and do a controlled crash, right? They could do debt demonetization or inflating away the debt. How they do it is that they would throw money in the street. There will be so much money that there will be money available for everything, and the price of goods would just go up a lot. Because of that, GDP grows a lot. GDP only shows to be growing, there's nothing growing there, but effectively it's inflating into a very large number. And by that token, the total debt comes down because it's inflated away. There's also forced currency devaluation that they can do. So there are quite a few many options, but you have to be prepared for whatever they are doing because now the debt has come to a level where there is a shipwreck that's going to happen. Now, when you look at the Pakistani currency, it's a basket case. So if you look at gold in 1970, it was 154 rupees per tola. Today, it's 431,500 rupees per tola. Think about the amount of inflation, meaning reduction in the value of Pakistani rupee. It's inflated away at 15.23% every year, right? That's a significant amount of inflation. Your rupee value is going down. The amount that you have in the bank will go down in value and you will not be able to purchase anything. Cash in bank in countries like Pakistan is just, the worst decision you can take. You can compare against gold, you can compare against basket of goods or cash savings, you can compare against house prices. House prices are probably even worse. So if you compare that, how much could you buy a house in 1970 versus today? It's just crazy because it's not that houses are becoming very expensive. The only thing is that your currency is not worth anything. The table on this slide is very useful for you to understand. When you look at the prices of what people were spending, what they were earning in 1970 compared to today, even though their salaries have gone up substantially, what has happened is their expenses have gone out of control. So today, even with multiple jobs, even with their wives working, they're unable to afford a family. And who's taking care of their children? I don't know. The thing why this is happening is it's out of control printing of money by corrupt politicians. It's very hard to find people who are really sincere to what is happening around the country, and it's very, very hard to get the right people in the government to control this. So how do you protect your wealth today? There are different type of inflations. So there's zero inflation, where, let's say if it's linked to gold or silver or essential commodities, then technically money would retain value. If you restrict the amount of debt that governments can issue, money would retain its value. Zero inflation is what is needed to actually implement any proper Islamic banking. Minor inflation is where, let's say, in Western countries, in Canada, they'll say we'll do all the monetary policies in a way that the 2% inflation target is met. That effectively is saying that the government would take away 2% of your money out of your pocket every year, right? That 2% is never 2%. If you actually go and compare the real prices of commodities, it's going at a much, much higher pace than 2%. Higher inflation, if you look at Pakistan or Turkey or other countries, the inflation is much, much higher than 2%, and money really deteriorates in value. But when you look at it very closely, the housing prices are really soaring in value. A lot of share prices that you see in market that are going up is primarily because of inflation as well. So it's important to understand the different type of inflation. Hyperinflation is very important to understand, like in Zimbabwe, in case of Venezuela and Yugoslavia, Germany in the past, their inflation can go to 1,000%. So by the time you actually come home with the money from your job, it has inflated away. So it's important to guard yourself against that. And the way to do it is invest in real asset like land, housing, precious metals, shares of companies which actually can reprice their products based on inflation. Uh, Fund everything that you have with the fixed rate liabilities. Do not do floating rate liabilities, because essentially the floating rate would take the debt right up to the real value, which is what people can protect against. Diversify your investment. So if you have all your assets in a city like Toronto, or everything in crypto assets, or everything in a particular type of industry, that's the worst thing you can do. Diversify as much as possible. And more importantly, guard against what the corrupt leaders are saying and what they're planning to do. So you can plan in advance and protect yourself. Inflation is very important in your life. You need to understand that due to inflation, your money will buy less and less over time. So, if you are planning your future, please do take that into account. If you're retiring today with $5,000 in your pocket every month, you might be very happy today, but 10 years, 15 years from now, that money would not buy you much. You will have a tough time with that money. So guard yourself against inflation. When governments say that there'll be 2% inflation, it's never 2%. It actually is much higher. And even if it's 2%, you're losing 2% purchasing power every year. So be on the guard. Most of the time, the inflation, what it does is it takes money from the poor and gives it to rich. And the way fiat money is created, what it is doing is it's taking the money out of the hands of rich, and it's taking and putting it in the hands of only a few people. It's almost like stealing money from every single person and putting it in the hands of the corrupt politicians. There is unbridled issuance of debt everywhere in most of the countries. How should Muslims actually protect themselves? It's a very hard thing to do today. It's very important to understand gold and fiat money and the differences between them. When you look at gold standard, which was primarily in the height of Roman Empire and Byzantine Empire, and in the Islamic Golden Ages, and also in the early 19th centuries as well, gold was linked to the currency. So effectively, there was limited amount of supply, and the sovereigns could not print money. In the past, what used to happen is when the debt was printed, it or the governments borrowed, it was the debt of the ruler, not of people. Today, when the governments go and borrow, they're borrowing in my name and in your name, but spending it themselves. They're keeping it with their cronies. uh, there is no like it used to be limited supply. Now there is no limited supply. What has happened is that after fiat money, there's a perpetual war going on in the US because they have tons of money. They never stop wars. They're just invading one country after another, and they're in a perpetual state of war. There's a massive increase in inequity. And it's environmentally polluting because people just keep spending, and governments give them money to keep spending, and they don't care about the environment. It's actually like when you look at fiat money, it's pro inflation, pro riba, and it's pro war, pro inequality. So there are lots of things that you need to consider. Also, when under fiat money, people use a blunt measure of GDP, which they're able to inflate up every year. If you want to really measure the growth, look at human progress, human happiness, divorce rates, literacy, suicide rates, and climate change. Like, look at those real measures. Don't look at GDP growth, which is inflated, and everybody can say, oh, we had 10% inflation growth. They don't worry about the 12% inflation that they were able to manage in the same place. So, by far, I would say gold standard was probably better than fiat. Now, the problem is, how do you bring back something which was something like gold standard? Because it will be very, very hard to bring it back.